The first time you decide you might have to kill a man, you are not on a battlefield. You are in a stable. The Kentucky night is cold, not sharp, not clean, but heavy and damp, crawling through the cracks between the wooden boards. The horses breathe in the dark. Chains hang from the wall and knock softly against the posts. You crouch behind the feed, your hand closed around a nail you forged yourself. It was meant for a horseshoe. Now you have filed it to a point. Outside the stable door, your master is talking to a white stranger. You hear boots in the mud. You hear the stranger ask about your wife, about your child, about what price they might bring farther south. Your master laughs quietly and says not to wake them before dawn. Harness the wagon in the morning. Get them to the road before anyone makes a scene. The woman he means is your wife. The child he means is your child. You do not rush out. You do not shout. You only close your fist tighter around the nail until the iron cuts into your palm. You are a blacksmith, a stable hand, a man trusted to repair hinges, locks, wagon wheels, horseshoes, fences, and all the little pieces of metal that keep other men rich. You know where every lock is weakest. You know which horse will stay quiet at night. You know which path avoids the patrol road. For years your master has liked your hands. He has said they are valuable. You used to think that was praise. Now you understand. It is a sentence. In this place, a person can be priced. A woman's back, a man's shoulders, a child's teeth, an old person's remaining years. All of it can be written down in a ledger. You have no legal name that can protect you. No property, no court that will stand steady beside you. You have only your hands, your memory, your family, and one thought growing harder inside you. If you do not leave before sunrise, you will not have a family by sundown. You reach under a loose board and pull out a thin strip of scrap iron. You hid it there in daylight, when nobody was watching closely enough. White men think scrap is useless. You know better. Put iron in a fire, strike it hard enough, and it becomes a key. A blade, an answer to a locked door. When you stand, your knees are numb. Not from fear. Fear has been with you so long it feels like another shadow. What makes you tremble is not fear. It is the knowledge that tonight, at last, you are done obeying. You push open the back of the stable. The night outside is a deep well. At the bottom of it is freedom. But freedom does not reach up and pull you out. You are born already owing your whole life to someone else. Not because you truly owe anything, because they say so. Because your mother is enslaved on this land. And so the moment you enter the world, someone writes you into the same book. Your master's ledger is thick, rubbed shiny at the corners by white fingers. It lists horses, cattle, tools, debts, and people. The first time you see your name beside a number, you think you misunderstand. Later you learn that you understood it perfectly. That is one of the cruelest tricks of slavery. Not only the whip, not only the chain, not only the auction block. Its deepest cruelty is that every morning, before you even stand, the world tells you that you do not belong to yourself. So you learn to lower your eyes. You learn footsteps. You learn the difference between a drunk man's shout and a sober man's threat. You learn how to swallow words before they reach your teeth. You learn how to look calm in front of your child. You learn how to pretend you are less clever than you are, because a clever enslaved man is dangerous. A clever enslaved blacksmith is worse. But your master needs you. When a horseshoe breaks, he calls you. When a latch fails, he calls you. When a wagon axle cracks, he calls you. When a gun mechanism jams, he calls you. You repair the things that hold his world together, and he smiles and says those hands are worth good money. You keep your head down, but inside you think, these hands will one day open something you meant to keep shut. When the war comes, you do not understand it at first. You hear white men arguing about the Union, the Confederacy, Lincoln, states' rights, cotton, property, law words. You are not invited to speak, but every argument eventually reaches you. Who can own you? Who can sell you? Who can take your child? Who can call your wife an asset and sleep after saying it? Then the news of the Emancipation Proclamation travels through the dark. Somebody whispers that Lincoln has set the slaves free. No one in the quarters shouts. No one dances. You have seen too many white papers lie. A paper in Washington does not stop a patrol on a Kentucky road. A proclamation can say freedom, while your master still holds the key to the smokehouse, the whip, the sheriff, and the gun. Later, you understand the bitter detail. The Emancipation Proclamation applies to areas in rebellion against the United States. Kentucky has not seceded. Kentucky is a slave state that stays in the Union. So freedom leaves Washington, comes near your door, and passes around it. That is when you learn history is not a door. History is a crack in the wall. The first people through the crack are the ones willing to bleed. And there is one crack wide enough to risk your life for. Enlistment. The rumor comes by way of men who travel at night. Camp Nelson is taking black men into the Union Army. If an enslaved man reaches the army and enlists, he may gain his freedom through service. You do not know if this is truth trap, or one more story designed to make desperate men run into a bullet. But you have seen men vanish into the dark. Some are dragged back and beaten in front of everyone. Some never return, and a few send word back. They wear blue now. They have brass buttons. They hold rifles. Rifles. The word stays with you. You have repaired white men's guns. You have never been allowed to carry one. You have nailed shoes onto cavalry horses. You have never been allowed to choose your own road. You have fixed locks for the man who owns you. You have never been allowed to own a key. Now somewhere in Kentucky, a camp says that if you can reach it, you may become a soldier, not property. A soldier. You do not know how far apart those two words are until the night you try to cross the distance. When you return to the quarters, your wife is already awake. She does not ask why your face has changed. She looks at you once and knows. You tell her what you heard. At dawn, they mean to sell her and the child. She does not weep. That is worse than weeping. She only pulls the child closer and asks, "Tonight?" You nod. She asks, "Where?" You say, "Camp Nelson." The name lands in the dark like a coal from the forge. You cannot carry much. Too much means noise. Too much means panic. Too much means escape. You take 2 hard pieces of cornbread, a little salt, a small knife, and the sharpened nail. Your wife wraps the child in cloth and holds one hand over his mouth, gentle but firm in case he wakes frightened. You go to the stable. You do not take the strongest horse. That one is too obvious. Your master would know in one glance. You take a mare that once went lame but stays quiet at night. You know how far she can go. You know which hoof needs soft ground. You know what she can carry and what will break her. When you pick the first lock, the iron clicks. You freeze. A dog barks somewhere beyond the barn. You wait. You wait until the wind moves through the trees. You wait until the dog stops. You wait until your own heartbeat no longer sounds like a hammer on an anvil. Then you work the lock again. The bolt loosens. For one wild second, you almost laugh. You repaired this very door 3 times. Your master thought you were making it stronger. All along, you were learning how to open it. You do not take the main road. The road belongs to wagons, patrols, white lanterns, men with permission to stop you. You take drainage cuts, tree lines, the back edge of cornfields, the small paths known only to people who are never supposed to travel. You carry the child. Your wife leads the mare. Mud fills your shoes. Every shadow looks like a man. Every broken twig sounds like a gun being cocked. Near dawn, you hear the hounds. Not one, several. The child trembles against your chest. Your wife's face turns grey in the early light. You know your master has discovered the empty stable. You also know what the pursuers will say. They will not call you a husband protecting his family. They will say you stole a horse, stole property, stole a woman and child who, in their law, were never yours. That is the obscenity of slavery. It steals everything from you, then calls you the thief. You run into the low, wet ground. Water climbs over your shoes, then your ankles, then your knees. The hounds come closer. You hand the child to your wife, turn back, and tear off your outer shirt. You tie it to a branch and drag it through the mud toward a different line of trees. The hounds follow scent. You know this because you have repaired the gear of men who hunt people. You know how the hounds are trained, how they are rewarded, how a whistle can turn an animal into a weapon. You drag the shirt through a ditch, throw it across a shallow stream, then circle back through water. A shout cracks through the trees. Then a gunshot. The bullet strikes bark near your face. Splinters cut your cheek. You do not look back. You cannot die here. Death would be easier. The hard thing is to live long enough to make their certainty fail. By midday, you hide in an abandoned shed. The child is too hungry to cry properly. He only breathes in thin little jerks. Your wife wets her finger and touches it to his lips. On the road outside, you hear hooves slowing. Through a gap in the boards, you see two white men ride past. One has a rope at his saddle. It is coiled neatly, as if ready for livestock. You look down at your hands. These hands have repaired hooks for ropes. These hands can also undo knots. After the horses pass, you move again. Near evening, an old black man steps from behind a tree and nearly makes you draw your knife. He lifts both hands, palms out, and says, "Do not take the bridge north. Men are waiting there." He gives you bread, a cracked water gourd, and directions. Ahead, there is a black church at the back door. Knock 3 times. Pause, then knock once. You ask why he is helping you. He says, "When I was young, somebody gave me water. That is the underground road. Not iron rails, not platforms, not signs that say freedom. It is bread in a hand, a code tapped on wood, a church door opened after midnight, a lamp placed strangely in a window. It is also fear, betrayal. A neighbor who wants the reward. A man who prays you survive but will not let you inside. You cannot blame everyone. Fear is one more thing slavery teaches, but you remember the ones who open the door, because they know slavery does not survive on masters alone. It survives on everyone else looking away. Every person who refuses to look away splits it open a little more. When you finally see Camp Nelson, your feet hardly feel like feet. First come the earthworks, then the tents, the wagons, the horses, the cannon. Men in blue uniforms moving under a pale Kentucky sky. You think you will cry when you see it. You do not. You stand there, unable to decide where your body belongs. Because in all your life, no place with armed men and flags has ever clearly said, "You may enter," a sentry stops you. You say you want to enlist. He looks at your wife, your child, your hands. Then he points you toward a line. The line is full of men like you, some barefoot, some scarred, some with mothers waiting just beyond the camp, some with wives and children clutching bundles. You are not here for charity. You are here to give your body to one danger in order to escape another. A doctor looks at your teeth, your arms, your legs. A white officer asks what you can do. You say, "I can shoe horses, repair iron, fix locks, read a road." He glances up, you add, "And I can fire a rifle, if someone teaches me." For the first time, you do not lower your eyes. They take you. Enlistment does not make the world clean. The uniform is too large. The boots tear your feet. The rifle is old. Training is brutal. Some white soldiers look at you with the same old contempt, only dressed in Union blue. They say black men are fit for digging, hauling, guarding horses, carrying loads. Not fighting, not strategy, not courage. You listen and say nothing. You know how to wait. Wait until iron turns red. Wait until the lock spring gives. Wait until a man who despises you realizes he needs you to stay alive. But there is one thing you cannot wait for. Your wife and child. They are among the refugees at the edge of the camp, crowded into rough shelters with women, old people, and children. You wear a uniform now. You have a soldier's papers. You have a claim on freedom that the army recognizes. They do not. The uniform shields you, but not necessarily them. And then, in November 1864, the cold comes down hard. An order is given. The refugees must leave the camp. At first, you think you miss here. You say you are a United States soldier. You say your wife and child have nowhere to go. You believe those words must matter. The men enforcing the order only tell you what they have been told. Every own out, women, children, old people, the sick. You rush forward. Other soldiers grab you. You curse. You plead. You fight until your throat is raw. You watch men enter the refugee huts and force people outside. You watch shelters torn down. You watch fire take what little warmth they had. You see your wife standing in the freezing air with your child in her arms. She does not cry. She looks at you as if asking, "Is this the freedom we ran toward?" You have no answer. This was not done by Confederate raiders. It was done under the Union flag. That is the coldest blade in the story. Even under the banner of liberation, black women and children could be pushed into winter. Even among men fighting slavery, there were men who still did not see your family as fully human. Freedom is not one pure army defeating one pure evil. Freedom is the enslaved forcing enemies, allies, courts, officers, newspapers, and lawmakers to admit what they would rather postpone. Snow falls. You hear children crying in wagons. You cannot leave your post. It becomes the most hateful moment of your life. Some of the expelled refugees die from exposure, hunger, and disease. The news spreads. The outrage grows. The army is forced to change course. A refugee home is established. Months later, Congress passes legislation that helps secure freedom for the wives and children of black soldiers. But you understand what that means. The law did not arrive because power suddenly became kind. It arrived because the suffering became too visible to hide. From then on, you no longer imagine freedom as paper. You imagine it as a fort that has to be taken. You train harder. When other men sleep, you clean your rifle. When your boots split your skin, you bind your feet and keep marching. You are not trying to become a hero. Heroes are words other people use after danger has passed. You only know this if you fall. Your wife and child lose one more body standing between them and the old world. If black soldiers are judged unfit, white men will say, "See, they were never ready. So you must be ready." You are sent to guard roads, build defenses, move supplies, and eventually face fire farther from camp. Men die of sickness. Men die in ambush. Men discover that a blue uniform does not make them safe. Confederate forces have threatened terrible treatment for captured black soldiers and the officers who command them. For white soldiers, capture is disaster. For black soldiers, capture can mean being thrown back towards slavery, or worse. You all know this. So when the fighting begins, you are strangely calm. The first blast of gunfire tears the air open. You smell powder and wet dirt. Men stumble. Some cry out for their mothers. Some forget how to load and spill cartridges into the mud. A white officer shouts for the line to advance. Ahead, through smoke, you see a fence. Beyond it, rifle flashes. In that instant, you remember the stable. You remember the door you opened. You remember your master pricing your wife. You remember your child trying not to cry in the swamp. You raise your rifle and move forward. You do not know whether your shot hits anyone. War is not a stage. No one gives you a clean, glorious moment. You only know you crossed the first fence. Then the second. A man from your company falls into the mud and grabs your trouser leg. He does not say, "Save me," he says, "Don't stop." So you do not stop. This is revenge. But not only revenge. Revenge can frighten one master. You mean to frighten the system that made him possible. Because slavery's safest belief has always been that you will not gather, arm, march, and fight. It believes you can be separated, sold, terrified, made to choose silence in order to keep one child alive. Now black men in blue uniforms stand in ranks. Drums sound. Feet move forward. Rifles rise. You are no longer shadows running through trees. You are an army history can no longer pretend not to see. Near the end of the war, more news arrives. Richmond falls. Petersburg breaks. Lee surrenders. White men speak of victory, union, nation, peace. You listen and do not celebrate too quickly. You have learned to measure freedom by what reaches your family, not by what powerful men announce. As long as slavery remains legal anywhere, as long as your wife and child require special protection to be free, the war has not fully arrived at your door. Then comes the 13th Amendment. This time, freedom does not pass around Kentucky. This time, it speaks to the whole country. Slavery is struck from the Constitution, except as punishment for crime. It does not leave politely. It is driven there by fugitives' feet, soldiers' rifles, refugee graves, mothers' cries, abolitionists' pens, and battlefields thick with the dead. After the war, you return to the place you fled. You have walked this road twice. The first time, you came through darkness with your child in your arms and hounds behind you. The second time, you come in daylight, wearing Union blue, brass buttons dull in the sun. You are not riding like a storybook avenger. No music follows you. No crowd clears the road. You simply walk to the old plantation gate. The stable is still there. The door has been replaced. So has the lock. You stand in front of it for a long time. When you escaped from here, you were hunted. Now the law no longer recognizes any man's ownership of your body. Your former master is older. When he sees you, first he looks confused, then disgusted, then something else crosses his face. Fear. Not fear of you alone, fear of the age standing behind you. You do not cut his throat. That would be too small, too simple, too easy for him, and too easy for the story. What he cannot bear is not that you kill him. It is that you live, that the man he priced became a soldier, a husband, a father, a citizen in the making, a person no ledger can put back into the column where cattle and tools used to be. You enter the stable and take down a length of old chain. It has rusted. In your hand it feels lighter than memory. The iron has not changed. You have. You are no longer feeling its weight from inside captivity. You take the chain home and keep it near the door. One day your child asks what it is. You say, "That is what they once thought could hold a man." The child asks, and then you look toward the road. You could tell him everything. You could tell him that then you ran, then you hid, then you starved. Then a church door opened. Then a camp took your body, but not immediately your family. Then women and children were pushed into the cold. Then the dead forced the living to listen. Then black men took up rifles. Then the country finally wrote slavery into the grave. But in the end, you only say, then it broke. Historians will write that in 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation changed the meaning of the Civil War. They will write that in 1865, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery. They will write that nearly 200,000 black soldiers and sailors served the Union. All of that is true. But what you remember is not a date. You remember cold air in a stable, your wife's voice asking, "Tonite?" Your child trembling beside a ditch, a knock on a church door, a line of barefoot men waiting to enlist, a blue coat that did not fit, snow falling on refugees, the weight of a rifle. The first time your old master could not look you in the eye. History does not come down from the sky. It is a lock opened in the dark by a man who was never supposed to own a key. It is a shirt dragged through swamp water to fool the hounds. It is bread in the hand of a stranger. It is a black church door opening after midnight. It is a Union uniform on a body the law once called property. It is a mother freezing before a nation admits her child should be free. It is men who were told they were not fit to fight, marching until the country had to hear them. You are not simply rescued. You run, you hide, you fight. You carry your wife's name, your child's breath, your comrades' bodies, and the rust of an old chain all the way to the door of freedom. Then, with the same hands that once repaired your master's locks, you break it open.